Would you like to learn how microcap narrative investing could change your life within the next 3 to 6 months? And which altcoins, microcap altcoins, do I believe fit within the narratives that could make you $100,000 to $1 million by early January or by early 2026? If you're excited to learn more, then watch on, as my name's the Suppoman, your superhero of 100 to 1000x gems. I have found 40 plus 100x cryptocurrencies, so I know what I'm talking about, because how I was able to profit from these 100x cryptocurrencies is doing this exact strategy. So if you love content like this and want to make sure that you get in on the alpha live, then make sure that you smash a like on this video and subscribe to Suppoman Live, this channel right here. So let me just make sure that I am streaming on the right channel. Yes, I am. Well, I see this there. This is my main channel. Makes me slightly worried. So, wow. Haven't things dramatically changed since just last week? Last week, we had people talking about going to under 100k Bitcoin. We had Filicone saying we could be looking at 35k Bitcoin. Ethereum could be going down to under 3,000, etc. And now that October has come, Uptober has come, everything seems to have dramatically changed in terms of sentiment. And now we are seeing some absolutely huge gains just in the top 100 cryptocurrencies. So it's beginning to start. We are seeing the money flow. We are seeing money flow entering the market. And as I said to you in my last couple of videos, September was, in my opinion, also a bear trap. I showed you what happened in 2017. One of the prime examples of going into quarter four in a post-halving year. And the September, which is literally just weeks away from quarter four, we saw a bear trap. We saw that Bitcoin had halved in September alone. And then only 10 weeks later, we saw that Bitcoin went to from under $3,000 to $20,000. And that is just Bitcoin. Bitcoin did a near 10x. Now, those times don't exist anymore for Bitcoin and in most cases large caps, but it does still exist. We still are operating in a time where you can make millions in just a few months in cryptocurrency. Actually, you can make millions in literally a week or two in cryptocurrency if you time it right. Now, if we have a look and see what is happening with the cryptocurrencies I've been talking about, you can see that it is largely extremely positive today. We are seeing Pandas at 87% rise, and this is having already risen about 2x in the last week. It has gone from $4 million in my last video. Now we are at $12 million. Dowge has gone up to 23 million, and literally a couple of weeks ago, what did I tell you? I said I wanted to buy more at 1.1 cents, and you guys didn't let me. Why? Because you knew that Dowge is going to be my main play for this market, no matter what. And I've already started upping my game with regards to video quality for my main channel. And that's giving you an indication of how seriously I'm going to be taking the next 3 months or the next 3 to 6 months, and how I am planning on really making sure that my video gets out to as many hundreds of thousands of people as possible. Now, what we'll know right now, and this is what I will tell you, is despite what's happening in the market, you are seeing a suppression pump. What I mean by suppression pump is that certain cryptocurrencies have been down for so long that when money flow comes back into the market, then they absolutely pump like mad. They've been suppressed, they've been hidden, they haven't been allowed to grow, and they've probably had an exceptional amount of hype behind them. And now they are given an environment to grow. Right? So what we're seeing, though, is we are seeing the existing crypto market waking up. We are seeing existing money basically now being portioned out into assets, right? It's become a risk-on environment. But we are still, in my opinion anyway, 2 months away from the new money coming in. Now, when I say new money, what I mean is when I show you my videos of how I go from 20k to 400,000 views, or literally in the last couple of years, how I've gone from like 15k to over 100,000 views, is because, that is the pivot point that the money starts going into the market, and then at the very end of it, that's when retail come in. Retail tend to come in when Bitcoin's already been and gone from this point already. Bear with me 1 second. Let me just share this one over to the good people of X, because no doubt notifications aren't 100% reliable. So bear with me. Share X. I'm literally talking you through my process right now. X, paste, post. There we are. Make sure I'm ready beforehand. So we're still well a ways from retail coming in at this point. So there's still a bit of time to breathe. But in my opinion, we have now entered the zone. Okay, the potential banana zone. I think this is where we were. I think this was the kind of last opportunity to get in. And I did take that opportunity. I did buy not only new coins, but I also bought some coins that had dramatically gone down. Okay, so I used this opportunity to bulk up because I don't think there's going to be an enormous amount of bulking up in the next few months. I do think that this is what we're going to be experiencing very, very shortly. Now, don't just expect that it's just going to go up, 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 up. Where we were last week, we were at $111,000 Bitcoin, and now we're at 120. So don't just expect up, 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 up. This is misleading. Within this are tiny corrections along the way. Okay, so don't be too surprised if we have any panic stations at some point. But this should be the outlook for the next 3 months, because we are having interest rates reducing, and it just always happens. In Q4 of the post-halving year, it all just comes true. And I said it would be September that they started reducing rates, and it happened just at the absolute right time. And I do think that after we have an initial, relief, euphoria, I think it's going to be relief, because I think it's going to be after all the hiking up of interest rates, now we are going to be seeing the we're going to be seeing the reduction of interest rates, and therefore a temporary real bullishness. But I also think that we have got a recession in 2026. I do think it's going to come, or at the very least a scare into recession, because it always is the case that when we've had a massive interest rate hike and then a huge interest rate reduction, that recession typically follows, And that's been the case for all the last recessions. And so we could be seeing, it could be 1 month, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months of bullishness. I don't know, it could even be a year. It all depends on if there's going to be some form of recession stimulus, which is rumoured to be coming in 2026, is what I've been hearing. And stimulus is what provided the bull season in 2020 and 2021. That was why we had a bull year that time round. We had, look, you can see here, right? We had the blow-off top in 2017, but then what we had in 2020 and 2021 because of stimulus is we basically had, three, in very quick succession, 3 big alt seasons. So, it wouldn't surprise me if this did, if actually we had an altcoin year from now. But I'm not operating on that. I'm not operating on that because this is what happened in the last bull market. In the last bull market, people were thinking, at this point here, people were thinking, oh, Bitcoin, and I'm one of them, Bitcoin's going to go to 100k, Bitcoin's going to 100k when it was at 60k. And it didn't happen, and people got caught out. They didn't sell their bags and ended up either selling their bags much lower than they could have done at the peak, or never selling them and now still holding them, i.e. me, and probably i.e. you if you were around at this period. So I'm not going to be counting my chickens. I am going to be really basing it because what I have seen from all the bull markets I have been in, and I've been in them all, you know, certainly the most commercial ones anyway, is that, you know, they can be very, very rapid, and you don't think that there's going to be an end to the gains. You know, I know this from personal experience. I told you how Star Launch went from 6 cents to $22, and I still thought it was going to go up, even though I was on a mega multiplier with that. A mega multiplier. That was huge. Think that's like 300x gain I was on with Star Launch, and I was still thinking next day it's going to go up another $4. So, you know, you can't count your chickens anymore. You know, when you're in massive profits, you need to be, especially if you look in your portfolio wallet tracker, whatever it is, whether it's DBank or, you know, Phantom, and you're looking at your wallet tracker and you see you're in massive profits, you have got to be, you know, you've got to be taking a slight, you've got to be very cautious, and you're learning from someone who's been there. And most YouTubers that you're watching now, the bigger YouTubers, they have not been there. You know, only a handful was around in 2021, and virtually no one was around in 2017 when I have been around. So I am telling you from experience that when you are at your maximum greed, which you will be, because I was there in 2021, and I'd already been there in 2017, and I was still thinking, this ain't going to end. And it did end. So anyway, so what we are seeing right now is we are finally seeing money coming back into the market that have been, you know, basically sidelined money. All right, October's happening. People are now, you know, they've had their money in stable coins, or they may have had it in Solana and ETH, and now they are portioning it out to microcap cryptocurrencies because they know that's where the money is. That's where the money always has been and always will be. You know, because I have made all my money in microcap investing. I could very easily, you know, take all my money, you know, put it into Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, never have to do another stream, never have to do any of this effort, and just live happily. But I don't do that because this is what I was born to do. This is my calling, is to be on YouTube and to be able to basically spread this to others. Because I did it, I benefited from it, now I want you to benefit from it, and I want you to basically see the opportunity for how it is. Now from this, now let me just play this. As usual, nothing I say is to be construed as financial advice. Crypto is largely unregulated and high risk, and people who invest should be prepared to lose all their money. And everything I say to you in this video is for informational and educational purposes only. Yeah, so what I will say is that there is an extreme amount of risk. This is playing crypto in hard mode, right? This is not an easy, this is not easy by any means. You know, don't think to yourself, this is going to be an easy 100k or an easy 1 million. It's not easy. It's never been easy. I've got grey hairs in my early 40s because of the fact that it's never been easy. I've been doing this for 8 years. It's always flying by the seat of your pants. It's always, you know, some will actually go to literally zero. So don't think for 1 minute that you can just sit back and just let your investments run for you. But at the same time, you kind of can if you're in the right ones. Now, what we're seeing right now is we are seeing narratives daily now. You know, we are seeing certain cryptocurrencies. So if we have a look at what is the biggest gainer in the top 100, it's Zcash, right? So that means that there's a privacy narrative, right? And there are, you know, like Dash, for instance, gone up 76%. Like, who the hell has been trading Dash ever, you know, since 2017? Well, actually, now it's beginning to happen. And we are seeing quite a few cryptocurrencies, you know, kind of doing really well. And this is why microcap narrative investing is absolutely powerful, the most powerful thing that you can do. Okay, so let me just show you, you know, what we have, and this is the traditional money flow, is that it starts high. So where we are seeing, you know, Zcash for privacy doing really well, where we saw Hyperliquid and Asta doing really well, is because it's in this zone here, right? Because the market leaders in certain narratives are first to pop off. And then where you make the absolute hella gains is by being in the micro caps that actually are within the same narrative as the large cap. So basically finding almost a clone, but different, obviously. It's not going to be the exact same. So if you were looking for SPX, If you're looking to find an SPX, then you would probably see somebody putting SPX 6969 or something stupid like that. That is a rip-off clone. That's totally stupid. But looking for something that essentially replicates the look and feel whilst being unique. If you got that as an altcoin, a microcap altcoin that essentially looks, feels and gives the appearance of a large cap, you are onto a winner. Because that's how it's always been for me. The biggest winner, well, I've had a couple of huge winners, but the biggest winner for me in 2017 was Ethos, and that was because it looked like Coinbase. Now, Coinbase didn't have, it didn't have a token, but Coinbase was the biggest platform in cryptocurrency at that time. Not even Binance was anywhere near it. Now, Binance kind of got close to it in the intervening years, but Coinbase was at the time the biggest crypto company, right? And Ethos looked like Coinbase. It was the exact same as Coinbase, only it looked better. And that was what Ethos was able to trade off of in its ascendancy from 5 cents to $13, right? So this is how it's always been. You find something that looks like one of the Goliaths in the top 100 or a crypto Goliath that may not have a token, and that is how you make the money, right? So to give an example, you have got Zcash as a big gainer, and if you have a look at the privacy tokens, you've got Ghosty and you have got Pirate Chain, right? And Pirate Chain was essentially seen as kind of mixer, anonymous, same as Dash, same as Zcash. They're all about anonymous transactions. And so, in my opinion, I'll come to this in a minute. And so, in my opinion, the one that most replicates that is Mist, because Mist is a form of privacy cash, right? And private transactions, and it has a mixer as well. Okay, so it's got all the kind of look and feel of Monero with some features of Pirate Chain, AI privacy DEX, aggregator, private transactions, private token selling, because everything is visible on the blockchain. If you are operating on any public blockchain, everything is visible. And that's why privacy tokens seem to be doing okay right now. They seem to be doing well. But the money is made investing in something that looks like the top tokens, but gives all the gains potential but has all the gains potential ahead of it. And that's why this at 129k in this environment has the potential to do insanely well. And this isn't going to be the beginning. This isn't going to be the only uptrend for privacy tokens. I don't really like them, but Mist is my play for having exposure to privacy tokens, but with huge profit upside, whereas these don't have huge profit upside. Even with Zcash, you didn't even make a 3x. So it's not incredible, right? So therefore, you go for something like Mist. This gives you all the opportunity to be able to make massive multipliers, considering where Mist was before, which was 8 million market cap, right? So it's already shown signs in the past, and that was during an altcoin season. So wait till altcoin season. This could do really well. So that's just an example. Now let me show you the kind of playbook, as it were. So this is how I've always made my gigantic multipliers in every single market cycle, is by finding the gems. And this is what's so difficult, because you have to be an altcoin expert in order to be able to find the gems. You need to, but it gets even more complicated over time, because now they've got to be active on Twitter. You've got to make sure the team is kosher. And even when you do that, you don't necessarily know if that coin is going to go to zero. So to give you a very, very good example, if you find something that looks like Render, i.e. Blender, and that is a tiny market cap, that's got incredible upside potential. But if Blender then stop, if they stop tweeting, if nobody responds in Telegram, then it goes to zero, and that's that, right? So you can't, it's not a foolproof, riskless, risk mitigated area. This is high risk. This is basically taking a free fall when you've got a rope attached to you, or doing a skydive and hoping that the parachute does open, right? This is what it's like, okay? You are taking a big risk, and if it doesn't pay off, dead. Okay, not dead, but you know what I mean. Right, so let me take you through this now. This is the most important bit. And then I'm going to take some questions after. I'm going to see what you guys have to say. So let's do a bit of a zoomy out type situation. So what I look for typically is I look for, what are the outstanding performers? So we've recently seen in DeFi, we've seen Asta and Hyperliquid and Mix doing really well. So Mix is basically the Chinese Hyperliquid, and Asta's done really well because of CZ, talking about it basically. And then it just bolstered this big kind of appetite for DeFi tokens. So to me, despite me seeing a lot of influencers talking about Asta, look how Asta's going up. Oh, Asta's really up today. I don't give a shit about that because I just think to myself, I don't care about Asta. I'm not interested in Asta. I'm not in Asta. I don't even want to go in Asta, even on a dip. What I want to do is I want to find the next Asta. I want to find the cryptocurrency that basically looks, feels, acts like, but is a tiny market cap. And that's where the cryptocurrency I brought in this week's video, went from 78k to $2 million, right? So it just goes to show you that the technique works, but, but the project itself needs to be also on par with you. That's why I've chosen certain projects. It's why I ask all these projects to get in contact with me. So when we saw ALTCOINS in the last video, I asked them to get in contact with me via the video. They did get in contact with me, and now I am way more confident in their abilities to achieve a long-term view. Because they've got a roadmap. I've spoken to the person. That person is incredibly passionate about his project, or the project he's working with, and and so that gives me confidence. But you never know if they are going to take their money and run at some point, right? And that's where you are always playing it quite by the seat of your pants with micro caps. But if you time it right, it does really, really well. Okay, so I tend to look at the elites, and I look at what is doing well in certain narratives, what narratives are really popping off. Recently, it's been in DeFi. In the last kind of 6 to 7 months, it has been movements and mascots. There's been mutterings of RWA and AI, and then NFTs. Well, Pengu has really led the way with NFT platforms. Having a meme coin that is also an NFT collection and is current. ApeCoin's quite similar, but ApeCoin, we have not seen anything from the Bored Apes. We've seen nothing from the ApeCoin. It had like a little narrative months back, maybe even a year back. They've done nothing since. Pengu has led the way. It's showing what people love, and so I look for what looks like Pengu. Hence why today, we have got Pandu Pandas at 13 million nearly, right? So that's the game to play, and I didn't even come up with Pandu. I saw when all day did a video, somebody in my group actually said, what do you think of Pandu Pandas? And I looked at it. At the time, it was 4 million market cap. And I was like, I love it, but I don't like the market cap. So I had to wait for it to go right down, because then it was an investable opportunity. It wasn't an investable opportunity at $4 million, because right now I'd be sitting on a 2x, and that is not good enough for me. So I waited till it went right back down to $1 million market cap. Then I went in, and then I brought a video out on it. But, what I'm saying is that people brought this to me. I didn't necessarily find this. However, I've got a very good eye for what works. So if somebody sends me... So when you guys say, Suppoman, what do you think of this coin? What do you think of that coin? I say, shit. It's because I have an eye for what works. And, I don't tend to see people saying something like Pandu or ALTCOINS or something that is basically a low cap version of these in my chat. Basically people are just pumping their own shit bags. And so people say, what do you think of this stupid Matt Fury coin? Don't give a fuck about Matt Fury, right? If I'm going to give a fuck about Matt Fury, I'll care about the 3 main characters, which is Pepe, Brett, and Andy. And that's it. So I've got Pepe, Brett, and Andy. I've got all 3 of them. But to me, Andy's the better opportunity of all of them. Right? So really, I would love for you guys to actually find cryptocurrencies that are within this, where you put them to me and I can instantly see, yes, that is just like X, or that is just like Y. I don't want you to be saying, what do you think of this shit? And it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't fit any hole. Right? It's just pure drivel. That's why I'd like for you guys to know, coming into this stream, please don't waste my time with stupid coins. Please give me coins that are basically like the elite, but much lower market cap and have their own merit. So, you've got all of these elite coins. Now, what I look for is what are the cryptocurrencies that are microcap clones, essentially. What are cryptocurrencies that are just like these, but are much lower market cap and overall better opportunities? And that's where we come to this list here. And this isn't an exhaustive list, by the by, right? But movements, okay? So movements are distinct from mascots. And you can see that with SPX and Giga, right? They don't necessarily class themselves as a mascot, but they are a meme coin that are getting passionate people that believe in a certain goal, right? And in SPX's case, they are looking for a financial goal. So the best thing to do in such a scenario is, instead of chasing SPX, which at this point is all the way up at a $1.2 billion market cap. And if you watched my last video, it was at 92 cents. That was a great time to get in. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting in right now because you've missed out on a whole 40% there. But what I'm saying is that, look, that is a lost opportunity. It's 1.2 billion already. If you're in the billion club, you are an elite coin already, right? So what I look for is the microcap clone, which DJI 6930 is at this time, and to be honest, is the most fine example. The most fine example of a clone that is better than the actual original. This is why it's such a great opportunity, because I believe that DJI 6930, had that come first and SPX came later, people wouldn't even look at SPX because they think, no mascot, satirical website, doesn't really get to the point, doesn't really have retail appeal, and then they won't bother, right? The only reason SPX is anywhere is because of Murad, first of all, and then secondly, because of the narrative he's whipped up around it. But on its own, without Murad, it would be dead, it would be nowhere, right? So there's already been an appetite whipped up around movement coins, but SPX, God bless them, I love them, they have set the way, but at the same time, this is not a great example of a movement. It just isn't. Nothing has changed with this website. It still is relatively confusing or ambiguous to the retail investor. They're going to look at this, they're going to think, what's this mean? What's this mean? All this, polysyllabic gobbledygook. What's it mean? Right? And they're just not going to really be into it. Dowge totally hits the nail on it. Just totally. Because the name is brilliant, first of all. Instead of Doge, which people do recognize, Dowge, which people also will recognize because it sounds just like Doge. So Doge sounds very similar. So people are going to think, oh, Doge sounds like Doge. And when they read into it, they're going to know about the Dow Jones because the Dow Jones is the #1 financial index, American stock market index. SPX is not. SPX is a 500 list company that most people don't know what SPX even means. They don't know it means Standard & Poor, right? But everybody knows the Dow Jones because it's the elite American companies. And people have been investing in the Dow Jones since the 19th century, which they haven't been able to do with the SPX because that came out in the 1950s, right? So Dow is the most prestigious, Dow Jones is the most prestigious stock market, and Dowge is a very recognizable name in crypto. It basically is a meme coin mixed with traditional finance. It's perfect, and just to hit the icing on the cake, if it couldn't already have done that better already, they are a mascot, right? So therefore, if we look at my list, DJI 6930 is not just a movement coin, it is a mascot coin as well. So it basically hits 2 top tier narratives. It's also an RWA coin and it's an AI coin, but I won't necessarily put them in that category right now because that takes the shine away from everything else. But it just goes to show you how this technique works, and if you can land right, you can be a millionaire with it. All right, if you find something that really hits, they've got a great team. You can see that already with Dowge. They have been tweeting daily, making videos and GIFs. They've been retweeting their community now for 3 months solid with absolutely no silence. They have never gone silent. The execution of DJI 6930 is absolutely perfect. They have hit it absolutely bang on, And to add to that, they are going to be providing something very, very soon to stay fresh. And something that SPX 6900 has not done is they have not stayed fresh. They are still the same website. The only thing that changes is that other YouTubers may talk about it, but it does not change fundamentally. It is still the same thing. And it doesn't even have nothing you can click. It's just static. And dowge, on the other hand, it makes it so abundantly clear what they're about. It's completely better, more simplistic, more retail friendly. So anyway, yeah, so this just gives you an indication that you don't need to just look for something that replicates an elite coin. It needs to, in its own right, also be high quality. The same thing with Meow, right? So Meow at this present point, they still, and this is great because I think they're about to be releasing it. They still haven't released it, but they are going to be virtually any day now. And I don't know if you've seen the Kit ALTCOIN website, but I have seen it, right? So I know what is to be expected, and I also offered some suggestions as to what would make it really translate well, because they already did a bang-up job. But I offered some suggestions, some text and some subheading suggestions that would really make this super appealing when cat lovers are coming to cryptocurrency. They're looking at the market, they're seeing Mog, PopCat, Mew, Toshi, well into the hundreds of millions, and they want something that's a little bit of an earlier opportunity. So I've made suggestions to make that even more appealing to people when they see Kit ALTCOIN's website, right? And the Kit ALTCOIN website will be pretty much exactly the same as Lolcoin, in the respect that not only will it have a completely refreshed look around the brand, but it will also allude to the history. Okay, so people coming in will be able to see the history too. They'll be able to see, these posts, how, it's going to tell a great story. I've seen the website is great. It's timelined basically what happened with Kit A and how it came out basically same time as Doge. They were essentially rivals, the cat and dog meme of the time. They are both proof of work cryptocurrencies, but Doge I'm doing it already with Doge. I'm calling it dowge. So that just shows you the power of branding. So anyway, you're going to be able to see, people are going to be able to see that history depicted in a very attractive way, and at the same time be able to see the old posts like this, right? So, Meow, I think, is another example of it. Basically looks, feels, acts like, PopCat, Mog. That's what it is. So I look at PopCat, I looked at Mog. I have got tiny amounts of, not even worth really talking about, of Mog, right? I don't have any PopCat. And I think to myself, well, I don't really want to invest heavy in PopCat because or Mog, because what I want to do is I want to invest heavy in something that basically is a cat coin, cat narrative, but is early. It's got all that trajectory. Got a website, got community building, got listings to come, and etc. Right? So I go for the early opportunities. Suppoman, I'm going to keep this one relatively silent, but Suppoman is a movement about flipping the retail market. Okay, so where we have got DJI 6930, well, we've got firstly SPX looking to flip the SPX 500. We have got GigaChad looking to flip the likes of Gymshark and Nike, Adidas, or Sports Gear. I'm not au fait on sports gear, so that's probably the best I'm going to come up with. But these movements, these have led the way. And then what we've got is DJI 6930 is looking to flip the Dow Jones and traditional finance as a whole. Meow is looking to flip the dog market. Suppoman is looking to flip the retail market. So the Suppoman cult is essentially a community of people that are looking to outperform all retail investors. And it's very easy to do if you're in the All Buys group, because you get, the likes of Ass Liquid, DJI 6930, Meow served up to you before it goes out on video. So, people are able to outperform the retail market. But even as a Suppoman watcher, you still can. Same happened with Tits last year. AWR and F9 to 5, they're also movements. AWR, they're looking to retire everybody. F9 to 5 is all about basically flipping the job market, as it were. So you can see they all have their own merits. They're not trying to be an SPX clone. They're not like SPX 6969. We are SPX 2.0. No, that's lazy. I could do that. My son could, anybody could do that. My dog Spawn could do it. Yeah, could just SPX 3.0. It's not difficult, but that's lazy. It doesn't deserve any money flow. It's not got any original thought. So, yeah, so you can see that the execution has to be as good as the elite movement that you're replicating. Mascots, I haven't really gone heavy into mascots. I've got, Pepe, Brett, Andy, Sheb still, for some reason, and a few other mascots. But I've not really gone heavy into mascots just yet, because I'm looking for mascots that have some meaning behind it. So DJI has meaning. Meow has meaning. Pumpy, this is not necessarily a movement coin. It obviously isn't a movement coin. But this is extracting value from the huge money flow going into pump.fun, of which there is no real. I mean, people could say, oh, pump tokens, coins that have come out of pump.fun are also derivatives. But they're not. They're not. Right? Let's be serious, right? You need something that is basically associated with the pump brand, of which Pumpy is, and that's why I've gone into Pumpy. So, and there's going to be more of these. Keep a lookout. There's going to be more of these as time goes on. DeFi, I was looking at Asta and Hyperliquid going up and not caring at all, being completely dispassionate, looking at Asta, having the biggest bubble on crypto bubbles and just not caring. I didn't care at all. I was thinking this is going to really lead the way for something that looks just or is the same as Asta and Hyperliquid, but is a tiny market cap. And I think on this occasion, I have hit pay dirt with, and they're actually not on this list. So let me just add them quickly. Liquid. It's such a perfect name as well. So Liquid is perfection. The moment I saw this, I instantly thought this is a hit, right? Because Asta, Hyperliquid, it's all in the name. Their inspiration came from Chill House. So what they got was they got Housecoin mixed with Chill Guy. I mean, it's one of the people they're following. This is the inspiration. Chill House came as a result of the amalgamation of Housecoin and Chill Guy, right? Because Chill Guy's a meme, Housecoin's an RWA. It's essentially creating a meme RWA like House, really, but a more mascotty version of it. So that was their inspiration. And it's just the absolute perfection of the execution. Like, you could have made Liquid as a name that combined the two brands anyway. But it's how they very geniusly made a logo out of the two brands as well. So what you've got Asta, which I never actually ever saw that it looks like Asta. It looks like two buttocks and basically the top of the, back thigh here, probably hamstring, whatever, right? But that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like now that I've actually looked at it. But before, all I saw was just, it was just had, four, it looked like a flower or something, like a clover leaf or something. So it didn't really have any meaning to me. But they turned this into an ass, which I didn't see before, and it's just so perfect. And then they've got the liquid in the exact same shape as Hyperliquid. So you've got the Hyperliquid shape coming out of the ass here, and thus creating Liquid. But it goes beyond that. If you look at the actual website, like, it's ridiculous. They have actually created a perpetual exchange. Like, I thought when I initially looked at Liquid that this was just for show. Like, it is a, you can, click on certain assets here, and there are various, bits of functionality that you've got. But I thought this is really just for show, right? This is just a DeFi platform screenshot or something. Like, it's not workable. It's just, it's nothing. But it's actually a working exchange. And if you have a look down, and this is another great thing about Asta is that Liquid is that they are constantly they are embracing the meme market. So they have turned Liquid not only into a perfect icon here with basically combining the two logos, which is just perfection, but they are also basically coming across as a meme project as well as a DeFi project. So just like House Token, You know, this is combining two megatrends. It's DeFi and memes. You know, you can't really meme with Asta or Hyperliquid. So this one has found that if you're looking at a kind of Venn diagram where you've got the two circles interlocking, and then one side you've got DeFi, the other side you've got memes, they are right in the center. And what you've got with DeFi is you've got Asta, Mix, Hyperliquid that can't really do anything but be a kind of serious corporate brand. And then memes are like mascots. They're funny, friendly, easily accessible, easily relatable. And then right in the middle, you have got you've got Asta Liquid, which is making a meme out of a DeFi platform, and at the same time, it's a perpetual exchange, which is ridiculous. So it actually really surprised me when I was looking through, what Asta Liquid are doing and the functionality that they've been coming out with. And what they have been doing is they have basically just been adding more and more functionality to the platform. They've got AI trading, they've got a scanner, they have got perpetuals, they have got limit orders, they've got all of this functionality coming. This is more than just a meme coin. They've taken it a step further. This is perfection. This is I wouldn't say up there with dowge, but I would say it kind of has that perfect execution in terms of everything from the logo to the name to the website to the growing of the website, and actually trying to make something serious out of something that has way more retail appeal to the normies, right? So a normie coming in will see Asta, they'll see Hyperliquid, they won't get it. They'll be like, well, what does this do? What's perps? What's perpetual exchange? What are longs? What are shorts? What's leverage? They're going to be having all these questions that are going to be unanswerable because they haven't got necessarily the aptitude, the time in the market to know what these are or care to learn what they are. But what they have got is they have got something they can invest in, which basically gives them exposure to both, but at the same time is fun, appealing, and the name is great. Can you even say it with a straight face? Like, if you're saying to someone, what are you holding? And they should say Asta Liquid. Like, it's very onomatopoeic. Like, you can just see it. The imagery is very, very strong with Asta Liquid. It's perfection, really. It makes you smile, makes you laugh. It's got a great logo, great name, great website. The execution's great. They're very active. They're adding to the functionality. I mean, to me, this bodes very, very well. And there's no doubt that the people that are on the Asta and Hyperliquid freight train, even the likes of Elio and Alex Becker, they at the moment are talking about Black Hole, which is their, kind of collaboration DeFi attempt, which to me, in my opinion anyway, is extremely weak. Black Hole is a very poor name. It's a very poor name. Now, Asta Liquid is derivative of Asta and Hyperliquid, so it's not an original name. Well, it's original in terms of how it's combined them, but it's not original in terms of they've created their own brand. But that would make this sink into oblivion if they created their own brand. The fact that they have essentially traded off the name of Astas and Hyperliquids means that's why this has even more value, why it sticks out even more, and why I will be covering this, constantly. So there we are. So anyway, so that's DeFi. RWA, well, you already know, House, and Limpid also is a very micro cap, basically RWA play at this point. Are they even on here? They should be. They are not. I've got these watch lists on various different devices. So on some I've got them, some I don't. But Limpid is. And Limpid is not user-friendly for me to go on while I'm on a stream, because I think I'll try and connect my wallet, so I'm not going to do that. But Limpid, where are you? Have I not added them? I thought there they are, Limpid. So Limpid is essentially just like Ondo, all right? It's a tokenization platform. You're able to essentially have exposure by fractional shares in luxury watches, luxury cars, real estate, various different, kind of appreciating assets, right? So instead of that for RWA season, which has not come yet, this is for later when it does come, having that position at the right time. Because, when it comes to RWA season, people are going to be like, Suppoman, what are your RWA plays? And it's quite obvious what I'll be choosing. Right? And it's same with all of these, right? These are microcap narrative investments that are held for the right time. Now, I could wait for RWA season to find RWA coins, but there are not many that are RWA memes. There are none, actually, right? And that's why House is in my opinion anyway, a good long-term hold for RWA season, because that's when it's going to fly the most. And same with all of these. Now, Pengu is doing really well, therefore Pandu's doing, and Pengu has really set the bar high. Pengu is at a market cap of, in the low figure billions, 2 billion, well, actually, it's near 3 billion FDV, right? And so because of that huge disparity, it gives much, much more torque. By torque, I mean kind of upwards trajectory, inertia, to the likes of Pandu, right? Because there's such a big chasm between the two prices. And to my knowledge anyway, there is nothing else like Pudgy Penguins. There's nothing else. Pandu Pandas is the only low cap cryptocurrency to have exposure to the money flow going into Pudgy Penguins. So this explains all of my choices. Now, it's not just meme coins, as you'll see, because the whole title is 10 microcap alts, right? So they're not all meme coins. Meme coins is my speciality, because meme coins is an area which I have grown to be very skilled in. I did a load of videos at the beginning of 2024, which really I threw myself into memes. I threw myself into the different types of sub-narratives of memes, like Sui memes, like Trump memes, political memes, all these things, right? I threw myself into them, learning all the time. Now I would say that I'm a meme coin expert, and that's why it's my chosen field, because it's the area I just get. I've always been able to just understand the retail public. And when they come in, I know they'll love every single one of these coins. And I'm going to be making the same quality video that you saw in my last Tuesday video. That quality is going to be reflected in all my bull market videos. So I'm really going to be going ham in this market. I'm going to be going hard to make sure that everybody gets a chance to get rich. And then on an outlier, we've got AI as well, so they're not at all in trend right now. But, I got into virtuals, got into Tau much earlier, never cared for render. And now, really, it's a case of finding what are the next Tau virtuals. TARS is obviously very similar to Tau. It's like the Solana version of Tau. Colin and Leah are basically like virtuals, AIXBT, etc., but tiny market cap, active teams. Leah is now live streaming on pump.fun, so that just goes to show you that functionality is getting better and better all the time. Need to see her on YouTube so everybody has a chance to look at her. But the only one that hasn't, at this point, has not had any sort of narrative is gaming. Now, Alex Becker, Virtual Bacon, Elio Trades, some other minor YouTubers are all saying gaming can pop off. It's very likely to pop off. And at this point, there's no real indication. There has been a suppression pump that's happening right now. Games are going up with it, but that doesn't mean it's a gaming season, doesn't mean it's a gaming narrative, doesn't mean that it's going to be a narrative that essentially takes attention away from all of these. So I'm yet to see it. And it's also a great opportunity because there are no real leaders in gaming. There may be Axie and Gala, but they've even they have gone down to ridiculous prices compared to the tops in the last cycle. But I think that the appetite is going to be for fresh, new coins that are unpumped. And at this point, there are quite a few very, very good ones. Gunzilla, for starters, right? Had Gunzilla launched in completely different market conditions, this one would have been worth probably a few billion in market cap right now. And certainly, and this is going to be a very slow to be realized FDV. Basically, the market cap is 35 million. And I'll be honest with you, I'm extremely surprised at the market cap at present. you know, because when this was being offered as a private sale opportunity in 2021, and I didn't get into it and felt extremely regretful I didn't throughout the whole of the time between then and now. I was extremely regretful I didn't get into guns. And yet, it came back to us perfectly, just on a silver platter. Right? It just gave the opportunity right back. Basically, this launched at a bad time, and it flopped, and basically what would have been an elite coin is a micro cap. You know, is lower than even Shrapnel and Bloodloop were. Right? So, you know, Gunzilla is something I've taken a good position in for if gaming happens. And then there are others. You know, Gamer Arena, Bloodloop, Sinverse, Star Hero, Shrapnel, and Mavia. These are all games that I think have, or games developers that I don't think at this point have really, you know, they've not been able to exploit any kind of money flow, because there's been no money in gaming since 2023. So it's opened up the position perfectly. So I have taken some, without any hint of a narrative, these could potentially go to hell, or if there's a gaming season, which is really what made Alex Becker and Elio Trades, then these will go absolutely nuts. And because they're all low market caps anyway, like this could be one of the most explosive sectors, you know, similar to memes. Yeah, outside of memes, I think the most explosive sector is gaming, because there's already AI coins. There's already a great big spectrum of your high caps, mid caps, low caps, micro caps. Whereas in gaming, pretty much everything now is a low or micro cap. In fact, to be honest, most are micro cap. And if anything's going to be probably the best gaming play, it would be Gunzilla. Even at a market cap like this, but I do think the better plays from upside, not necessarily better plays in terms of quality, because Gunzilla is number one. Then I would say the likes of Sinverse, Star Heroes, you know, Bloodloop, etc. And Bloodloop very recently being delisted from MEXC has made it an even better opportunity, I think. You know, look, it is nowhere. And Bloodloop is basically a lot like, you know, your Call of Duties, your Fortnites, etc. So it's got a lot of upside ahead of it. It's basically what it boils down to. So okay, so I've gone through my playbook. Basically, I've given you some very good examples of how to play this section of the market, which is basically the money flow stage, the banana zone, the euphoria. You know, there's all sorts of names for it, but we're in that period now. We are in that extremely high money flow, you know, violent upside action coming very, very soon. Hello. Come here, you. Come here. Look who's come. Look who has come to join the fun. We've got Spom in the house. You got to say anything? This is the #1 Pom. This is Spom. Look, hold on 1 second. She won't react to Spom because that's not her name. There, giving you another clue there. Let's have a look. Should we look together? Look, it's you. Look, it's you and me. It's you and me. Look, that's us. Is that good? You like that? See, look. She's so cute, isn't she? Oh, so pretty. Who's pretty? Say hello to everyone. Hello, everyone. Bye, Spom. Bye, Spom. Bye, Spom. That's her saying that, not me. Giggies. Right, you can go now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I don't want her peeing on the carpet, to be frank. There we are. So a nice, beautiful little, improv appearance from Spom there. So Suppoman. Anyway, I don't know if did I say her name? I hope I did. Did I say her name? I don't know if I did. But anyway, so yeah. So this is essentially the playbook I have always played from. You know, depicted for you, so it's very, very easy to understand, right? And anybody who you may, and then, actually no, I don't don't follow this. What I was going to say is, and anybody who wants to get into crypto that you know, and they say, oh, how can I make a lot of money? I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you push this to them, because there is a big downside to investing in basically microcap clones, and that is the kind of player versus player environment that can take place. You know, all it needs, and this is what happened with DJI 6930, unfortunately, which is why I'm so glad we had the correction period where lots of people were kicked out of there, lots of whales sold their positions, is because it only takes one huge mega whale to actually drop a price of any of these coins, right? So, in a lot of cases, I've taken big enough positions to protect the supply. But, you know, that is what can happen with these. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend you tell your friends to do it, because they need to really have an understanding of the risk involved. And you don't want them blaming you. You don't want them coming after you and losing friends as a result. So what I would probably say is, I'd probably just tell them to stick to, like, for instance, the other day there was, I had somebody that was doing some work at my dad's place, and he asked me, what coin shall I get in? And I wanted to say DJI 6930, but I thought it's going to take too long to explain how to get into it, first of all, and secondly, you know, he's not going to, I don't want somebody coming up to me and knowing who I am, where I live, or where my father lives, and basically getting burnt. So I suggested SPX at under $1. So I said, if you want to get into something, I'd say SPX. At the time, SPX was 95 cents. So I said, get into SPX, if anything. So hopefully you listened. But yeah, I really understand that this is where you make the money. You will not make the money here anyway. You will outperform the stock market. You will outperform Bitcoin. But in the elites, you will not make serious money. You could turn $1,000 into a kind of maximum of maybe 20 with SPX, maybe even Giga. But none of these others. There's zero chance of that happening. Whereas in this area, you've got a chance of not only turning 1,000 into 100k, but also you could turn 1,000 into 1,000,000. It can be done. I did it with tits. You know, that was, you know, $400 essentially became, what, no, it was $500. Essentially became 1.2 million. Okay? That just shows you it can happen. All right? And you don't need all of these to hit. You just need one good one, right? And $1,000, if you spread $1,000 into these and literally just wait, all it needs is for one to really hit. And you can see that the stories they tell versus the elite cryptocurrencies are brilliant. You know, they're great. They're great. All of these are great tokens, even without an elite to base their upwards trajectory off. They're all great anyway. They're all great projects, and this is the only quality you'll find from Suppoman. You know, there's another YouTuber, you'll know his name. His plays are total dogs. Yeah, he'll get you into a low market cap, but it'll be probably a lower price the next day. So, you know, stick to what are quality projects. And you see, I've taken you through all of them. They're all quality projects with great supportive teams. And when I say supportive, they are working in tandem with me. You know, there's no point. I've made that mistake with Blender. There's no point in me talking about a cryptocurrency without knowing who's behind it. I spoke to the Blender guys, not enough. I didn't get them on side. You know, they weren't listening. And I don't know what's happened with them. Maybe they'll come back, but I don't want to have that happen again. So I make sure that with these guys, you know, I talk to all of them. The only one I'm not talking to is Tars. But all of these, I've spoken to all of them. All of the founders, I've spoken to all of them. And I have confidence, relative confidence, they're going to be sticking by me. So as I do videos, they will continue to make the project fresh, keep the community stimulated, and it just keeps going and going and going. And that's, you know, how I'm looking to play this. Okay, so there we are, people. Hope you enjoyed. And I also hope you enjoyed that little impromptu appearance from Suppoman. She is a beauty. And I'll see you next time, people. I hope you're feeling a lot more skilled, a lot more confident in your ability to look at narratives, and make sure that when you come back to my videos, Because next time I'm going to be asking you, what have you guys found? You're coming back with coins that fit in this kind of narrative playbook. Till next time, people, I've been the Suppoman. You have been awesome. It is lights out or out.